life of a spy isn't as glamorous as I thought. But it isn't dull.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tuesdays with Story. Glad to be back, as always. My name is Daniel Parker, and I am the writer and creator of the comic book for the trailer that you just saw, Angels Awakening. So, as some of you probably already know, this, but if you don't know it already, this campaign closes tomorrow. So, if you haven't picked up this book yet, if you haven't backed it yet, you've got until this would be about 7 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, because I'm going to be back here on this channel with Bogdan Razea, who is my artist on this book. We're going to be doing our closeout stream, which would be 6 o'clock Eastern. So yeah, if you haven't gotten this yet, you definitely want to get it while you can.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations! You got 2 more backers since last week.
Yeah, I know. We're at 99 backers. 99.
Don't give him an OCD attack.
I know. I'm kind of having one. I'm like, oh, come on. But if we get to 100 backers, that would be awesome. But yeah. Like I said, you got till tomorrow to back this book if you haven't already. So. And of course, joining me as always is my partner in crime here, up to my left or right, whatever.
Yep, it's Darth Bobcat, also known as DB Fastbinder, author of Confessions of the MAGPIE Wizard, among other stories, having a deep philosophical conundrum about just how many bad 70s cartoons there were. So somebody posted, yeah, sure, please buy my book. Yeah, but I'm busy having an existential crisis about the fact that they made a cartoon based on The Odd Couple, starring a slobby dog and a neat cat, and the dog was voiced by Tigger. It's like, why? The first episode is about a werewolf, an old woman who turned into a werewolf. Like that. What were they smoking in those days?
Well, I can guarantee everybody that whatever it was, Bobcat was not smoking it when he wrote this book.
Right. The drugs have gotten much better since the 70s. Let's be honest.
Yes. But of course, what we are saying is,
buy my book. Buy my book. Buy my book.
Yes.
Oh my God, I just realized what this cartoon was. Do you remember in Family Guy that one episode where they're like trying to find Daggermouth, the giant shark, and it turned out to be an animatronic fake? And the old sailor was like, I've sold it to Nickelodeon as a cartoon. It stars an effeminate cat. I realized that's what the Oddball Couple was.
Okay.
Like so somebody working for Family Guy had watched that cartoon growing up.
Probably Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, what killed me was they did the Monty Python bit. A fishy. Ooh. Yes.
Which actually is not a bad transition to our topic this week. The moments that stick with you. We're not talking about, when we say important moments, we don't necessarily mean like, oh, these are great moments of art and theater that will redound throughout the ages. It's more like an examination of, why do things stick with you?
Yes. And, we both of us have been thinking up different moments through various forms of fiction that have that we've been reading and consuming or watching over the last 30 plus years that we've been on this earth. Yeah. And so for me, growing up watching Star Trek, I had, Star Trek had a bunch of moments in it, like, whether it was the original show or the spin-off shows, they all had those moments in that stick with everybody. And for me, I remember I grew up with The Next Generation, and in the third, of course, if you watch Star Trek: The Next Generation, you know about this. But in the third season finale was when they bring the Borg back, because the Borg were in the second season. They brought them back in the third season, and Captain Picard gets captured and assimilated by the Borg, and he becomes Locutus of Borg. And you had the big cliffhanger at the end of it, and I remember even as a little kid. I mean, I wasn't very old when that episode aired, maybe 4 or 5, and that stuck with me even when I was a kid, because I'm like, oh my god, that's Captain Picard. I was really scared because of course at the time I had no understanding of the fact that Patrick Stewart's contract was was up, and
they had already killed Tasha Yar, so there was
but I mean, I didn't care about Tasha Yar. Most people didn't.
Most people didn't.
Most people didn't care about her.
Although Data seemed happy with her the one time, so
yeah, he did.
Functional.
Yes, he's fully functional.
Do you think he had to refill afterwards?
Oh, jeez. But yeah. Anyway, and actually, there's more. Speaking of Data, it does tie in with this episode. But anyway, Patrick Stewart. They weren't really sure if he was going to come back or not, so they created this whole storyline where he might actually get killed off. And actually, when you mentioned Data, they were originally going to do some weird thing where Data and Picard were going to combine into one entity, but they couldn't figure out how to do it. But anyway, that really stuck with me, because it was just you have the captain of the Enterprise, and then his first officer just gives the order to kill him, and of course you're sitting there going, well, how are they gonna how are they gonna get out of that? How are they gonna get out of that? And you had to wait wait 3 months to find out.
Yeah, and especially if you haven't watched a lot of fiction, and one of the biggest things to blackpill you on suspense and things like that is the realization, oh, he's an actor, so unless they cancel his contract, he's probably back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and but also too, and the other moment I have, which ties into that, is in the movie First Contact, which is, I've said this before, probably, one of the best Star Trek movies in the franchise. I put it up there with Wrath of Khan, where the scene where it's kind of, I think it's right at the end of the second act or just before the beginning of the third act, where the Borg are slowly assimilating the Enterprise, and pretty much taking over almost the whole ship, and they're trying to figure out what to do, and then they come up with the plan to just, we'll just blow the ship up, and then escape to the planet below, escape to Earth, even though they're I can't remember what it was, 300 years in the past. But Picard says, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to stay. We're going to fight the Borg.
This far and no further.
Yes. And it leads to that moment in the observation lounge with him and Lily, who the character Lily was played by Alfred Woodard. And, they have this whole argument, and then he just like he snaps and he grabs the phaser rifle and he smashes the case with all the ships, and you just and he does the whole, the line must be drawn here. And like having watched Next Generation, for as long as we had, and then seen the Generations, and then this movie, like you'd never seen him, like you've seen him angry, like you'd seen Picard angry, but you never seen him, but his anger was always measured, and it was always like for a reason. This was just like he was just just lost it, like he lost his mind, actually lost his mind, not some alien influence. And he was irate. It just, you'd never seen that from him before. It was really jarring.
Yeah, I know that like some reviewers like Red Letter Media think that moment was totally out of character, but I think it was more just like it showed just how much he was affected.
Yeah, and you really, because you never really got that, like you did in like one, like the following episode on the show where he goes down to Earth and he visits his brother, where you kind of get a sense of how it affected him. But then after that, they just kind of like let it go, because that's just because of the way TV shows were done back then. They didn't do, it was episodic. They didn't, they weren't serialized like they are today. So you just kind of like, okay, well, just move on to the next adventure. So that was the first time where you actually got a sense of just how much his experience with the Borg, like, how much it affected him and how much it changed him.
Yep. So that's actually a really good just starting place for talking a little bit about what makes moments like that tick. Why does that stand out where others don't? Mm-hmm. So part of it was, I think that was the first time they did in Star Trek, the end of the previous season gets resolved at the start of the next season trick.
I think so. Yeah. That was, yes.
So like if you're little Daniel Parker watching it randomly and you're just used to things being okay at the end of the episode, suddenly it's aggressively not okay at the end of the episode. Yeah. But also you would have seen all those episodes of Captain Picard and gotten to like him, and suddenly just seeing him in danger like that would really affect you. Mm-hmm. Especially because as a kid you think, oh, everything always ends okay, right? Right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it was pretty it was like I said, it was jarring, and then of course thankfully it did get resolved, but yeah, and then another I would say another moment, and again going back to Star Trek with me, is in Deep Space Nine. This was in the last season where you had the whole Dominion War arc where which again they'd never done that in Star Trek before, actually shown a war, an open conflict, and but they I can't remember where it was. It was near the end of the season where they have the Defiant, which was the ship, the little warship that they had,
the little ship that was pretty much entirely like, oh, where's the holodeck? Get out. Okay, we had real designers for a warship.
Yes, exactly. Or as one creator calls the Defiant Benjamin Sisko's MFing pimp hand. But anyway, so in this one episode, they have to the system that the star system that they took from the Dominion is about to be taken back from the Dominion. So they all hop in the Defiant and they fly off to fight the Dominion. And you think, oh, okay, they're gonna fight back. It's gonna be a nice, cool battle, and they're gonna do all this stuff, and all right, and everything's gonna be hunky dory. Nope. The Defiant gets hit with this energy dampening weapon, and then it just gets shot up, and then eventually destroyed. And you're like, what?
Yeah, like to talk about subverting your expectations.
Yeah, you're like, you just destroyed the ship, and the ship they've had for the last 5 years, 4 or 5 years. Like, what? Jeez.
Whereas, whereas they've kind of now gone to the well too many times with that.
Yeah.
So now it's like, oh, you destroyed another Enterprise? How beautiful. I think they destroyed the Enterprise in like half of the Next Generation movies.
Let's see. They destroyed it in The Search for Spock.
Let's focus on the Next Gen movies, because I think that they were much better about it in the original. That actually had consequences, because episode 4, The Voyage Home, they didn't have an Enterprise.
Right. Yeah. It was destroyed in Generations. They didn't destroy it in. The Enterprise E didn't get destroyed. It got badly damaged, but it was never destroyed. And then the Enterprise in the movies that don't exist. In the Abrams reboot in Star Trek Beyond, it gets destroyed.
For some reason, I had this false memory of them destroying the Enterprise in like half of or more of the Next Generation movies. But I guess now that I think about it, that it's a false memory.
Yeah, it sounds like you might have Mandela effect going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah, like that's the other aspect of something that's memorable is you build something up and you either pay it off or you take it away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what moments do you have for us?
Well, so this isn't one. So I'm going to go a little bit sillier and newer with this one. Are you familiar with I don't even know if I should call it a webcomic or not. Little Nuns.
No.
So this is. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here.
Okay.
So this is a series of free cartoons that are posted on Twitter by this Japanese woman who goes by Diva. And I feel like these should be a calendar.
Yeah.
So I'm not necessarily like, man, this is a moment that's going to stick with me for 30 years. But this is something I read recently where it kind of made me go, oh, wait a second. That's actually a really good payoff. Like that's like a satisfying story told in 4 images. Yeah. So the premise of the series is that you have these girls who go to a nun boarding school, and because the author loves to draw frogs and ducks, there are frogs and ducks everywhere. And they can get a lot of character across without any words, at least not with any spoken words. So like you have Frog Nun is very selfish. She's marked everything as hers. And you can see Glasses Nun back here with this crappy cardboard guitar with like some string, some string strings. And here she is over here like beating the heck out of the poor girl's guitar.
Well, she's got the what do you call it? The bow, or yeah.
Like you could take all these big chunks taken out of it.
Yeah.
Then
like a little kid. Nope.
No, it's mine. It belongs to the Frog House.
Yeah.
And you just have Glasses Nun, who is very often the punching bag of the series. Like she's always getting bamboozled and pranked and everything. Then you have a ninja duck back here clinging to the wall somehow, or to the glass windows. like you could seriously like spend an hour looking at some of these.
Yeah.
Like, there's someone back here, how to fix. I'm guessing it says guitars.
Yeah.
This is like continuity where a couple of the nuns were like, hey, we'll go ahead and we'll corner the local caramel corn market. Like we're drug dealers.
Yeah.
So we got a weird amount of continuity here.
Yeah.
Then they fix the guitar and she's willing to she gives it back, and oh, Glasses Nun is so happy, though the hedgehog on her face is kind of a danger.
Yeah.
And then Glasses Nun gives a concert as everyone enjoys the caramel corn that they set up previously.
Jeez.
Like, seriously, wouldn't you, like, if you felt like you needed a physical calendar and you just wanted something kind of sweet to look at, like, I could see people buying this. Like, just, like, I think that's the perfect environment for it, is like to have it up for a month and just notice little details every time.
Yeah. That would be cool.
But anyway, so it's like that's there's your buildup and payoff there without a single word being said, but just like the personality bleeds through.
Yeah.
So it's just like you just set up the characters and scenario. You make the emotions clear, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Now time to reclaim my man card a little bit here.
Okay.
Another series that had a great moment was to bring back something we were talking about last week, Rave Master. So Rave Master, for those who aren't aware, is a manga series, the first major series by the creator of Fairy Tail. And it's basically a shonen battle manga that is, I'd say it's kind of like One Piece in the sense of having like the big fights and the imaginative, ridiculous worlds, but slightly goofier on its edges. Mm-hmm. But one character who isn't particularly goofy here is our boy Let. Let is kind of a second banana or third banana through most of the series. He's a dragon warrior who eventually passes some test and becomes more human looking. And like he has this whole thing where his species, when you hit your age of 18, you go through a trial, and if you succeed the trial, you become human. But if you fail, you become a mindless monster. And his girlfriend had become a mindless monster, and so he was trying to find a way to fix her. And it's like the two of them were a couple. But it's like, you know, he's this character who never really saves the day because he wasn't the main character, but he always put in a good showing. There was one moment towards the end of the series where they're fighting a villain who had time powers. And so he goes off to fight the villain by himself before the Rave Master himself arrives. And so thinking back on it, you kind of knew he wasn't going to be allowed to win. But it's like, okay, but yeah, it's like, okay, so he'll get to show off the powers of the villain. Let's see what he does here. And he proceeds to kind of pound the villain into the ground. Like he's just faster and stronger. But the villain has time effery powers. So what he does is he uses a technique that opens up every single wound that Let has ever suffered.
Oh.
At the same time.
Oh.
So, and this is a series that has not ever been shy about grievous injury to the main characters.
Yeah.
So he goes down spurting blood.
Oh, God.
The villain's like, okay, well, time to continue on my plan. And Let gets up and is able to keep on fighting. He doesn't last much longer, of course, but just that badass moment that's stuck with me. I've forgotten a lot of Rave Master, but I'll never forget that bit just because it was like, damn, that's badass.
Yeah. Having a character like that, you know, just overcoming all the overcoming so much. I think that always sticks with anybody because it's, you know, because then because for a lot of people you're like, oh, I'd be on the floor crying, you know, I'd be in the fetal position, and you know,
right. You say pick. Hey, remember the couple of times you've had surgery in your life? One of those wounds just reopened without anesthetic. Like most people would be down. Yeah. Much less. Remember that time you got ripped open and you healed because of magic blizzard powers?
Yeah. Oh boy.
So what I'm noticing as a commonality with all of our moments here, including the Silly Nun comic, is that it's all about buildup. Like, and it's about the appropriate type of buildup for the medium you're doing. So, just for example, nun comic, you don't like need to hear any dialogue. There's not really ever a big conflict or world stakes. It's just like you slowly come to like the characters, and so seeing one of them get jerked around like that is like, oh, poor dear.
Yeah.
It's like even just that amount of payoff, it can be really satisfying.
Yeah. And and of course, when we think about moments too, it's also like times when like they hang with you, like they hang you with you for years, well into your, for a long time, like so. And we can, I can use comedy as I'll use comedy as well. One of my favorite comedy movies is Animal House, which is a movie that could not get made today.
No,
because of just everything that happens in that movie. But there was one like part in particular where, because it's, if you watch the movie, of course if you know who the guy was, with John Belushi, he was a big name in comedy back in the mid late 70s and early 80s, up until he passed away tragically. But he there's a scene in there where they were in the fraternity, they're all giving, he's going through with all the pledges and giving them their nicknames, and he stops at the one and he says, your name's Pinto, and he's like, why Pinto? Why not? Because Belushi, Blutarski, Bluto, and he's just a fat drunk, just so he's a drunk, and he's just kind of, he's not all there, so it's like, okay,
we'll just go along with it.
Yep. or another line, another part where, like, my father quotes this one all the time, where the university is about ready to close the fraternity house down, and so they're going through and taking all their stuff out, and the two guys walk up to the president and they're like, what's going on? And the president says, they confiscated everything, even the stuff we didn't steal. Well, okay.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I have friends who we can have whole conversations made out of snippets of Simpsons episodes.
Yes. And and usually, like, sometimes with those moments, it's because, like, you're in a situation where those lines, those moments will come up and they apply.
Yeah. Bonus points if people if people are also in the know and they get the reference.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you sound like somebody trying to explain a meme verbally.
So do you have something else to show?
Well, there was another one. So since I'm clearly a comic book guy, we've got an issue of Peter Parker Spider-Man number 35. So this one is one that tugs at the heartstrings, and I actually recommend digging it up if you are so inclined. So the basic storyline, it's an interesting storyline because Peter Parker never actually appears in it. So it's about this young boy named LaFrance who he basically has like a drug addict mom who's just always out of it. And the way that he escapes, and she often will forget to get him lunch or to buy food in general. And the way he kind of escapes is he imagines that Spider-Man shows up and he's his sidekick, Spider-Kid. So like he draws pictures of him, like little crayon drawings of him with Spider-Man, and it's like I remember at one point just as like a little boys will be boys thing The principal's like, well, they're very good drawings. I'm not quite so happy about all the airplanes shooting guns. It's like, he loves drawing guns. He's good at it. Or he loves drawing planes. He's very good at it, says his aunt and uncle who are trying to get him out of the house and into their custody. And towards the end of the book, the mom dies of an OD, and all of their stuff is repossessed by the landlord because the mom was months behind on the rent. And so like towards the end, he picks up his Spider-Man trading card, which is like almost ripped in half. And Spider-Man appears to him one last time and he says, hey, I don't think I can be your Spider Kid anymore. I have to go be with my aunt and uncle. And he's like, well, did you learn to count to 20? Yeah, good. I need a good counter to watch up on 25th Street. Is this goodbye, Spider-Man? I'm afraid it is. Do you want a hug? Men don't hug. Or excuse me, men don't hug. They shake hands. And it's like he kind of pictured Spider-Man as the dad he didn't have. And that one always just kind of makes me shed a couple of manly tears.
Yeah, I can see why. Yeah, because that's and I would imagine there were probably a lot of young people in a similar situation to that read that story and were obviously greatly affected by it.
Yeah. Although, to be honest, modern comic books aren't really available. Well, this was 2000. What year? 2001. There could have possibly been a place besides comic book shops where a kid might have found it, but I'm sure it touched the adults who had similar people in their lives.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's one that stuck with me 20 years later.
Yeah. Yeah, and anytime you get something like that, it sticks with you. I'll give you another sentimental one. So did you ever watch The Wonder Years?
Some of it.
Yeah. So there was one episode, and I want to say it was like the second or third season, where Kevin, the kid, Fred Savage, he's struggling in his math class, and his math teacher offers to help him out. And of course, he and the math teacher are butting heads all the time. And then what happens? And spoiler, if you haven't watched the show, or if you do want to watch it, the math teacher dies. And so he has to, so he doesn't have his, getting his help from the math anymore. But then he's able to take what he learned from the teacher and then apply it to the test and take this math test that he needed to pass the class. But it was one of those episodes. Yeah, it was just one of like real kind of like tugging at your heartstring, kind of make grown men cry type of shows.
Right, where he kind of realized that the teacher he'd always been at odds with was somebody he actually cared about.
Mm-hmm.
But too late, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and realize that the teacher was actually trying to help him. Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, enough of the sad stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, the thing is that I think where the moments that stick with you, it's either something that applies to your own life, or just something that's so outside of what you were expecting from the story that the juke surprises you. Like, one of the all-time great examples would be Luke, I Am Your Father, when nobody would have seen that coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently George Lucas wouldn't have either circa episode 4, but that's neither here nor there. That was apparently a decision they made during the making of Empire.
Yeah. It's but it paid off though eventually, because I mean they built the whole freaking saga around that.
Oh yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
Made some movies that are enjoyable, which I will stand by. I didn't say good; I said enjoyable.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
And just a lot of other media out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I will say the Clone Wars was a good show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I liked Anakin in that show a lot better than I did in the prequel movies.
Right. I mean, yeah, those movies, they didn't give him the best to work with.
Yeah.
I mean, part of it was I did think it was very realistic that Darth Vader would have been a whiny teen, so mission accomplished there.
Yeah. Yeah. True. Well, I will say, you talk about moments. Even though I knew it was coming, like when he gets his arms and legs chopped off by Obi-Wan, and then gets burned by the lava, like. Yeah, I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but it still hit me.
All the fact that he just was still so consumed by his hatred that he didn't even seem to feel any pain.
Yeah. Yeah, jeez.
Now, on a related topic, let's talk about how your enthusiasm for a great moment in fiction, how easy it is to accidentally kill somebody else's enjoyment of it too.
Mm.
It's like, let's say that you have actually, good example was that Spider-Man picture I was just showing. Let's say I just showed you that picture and I went, Daniel, this moment is so touching.
Yeah.
I didn't tell you anything about it, or I didn't show you the comic or anything like that. I was just like, Daniel, this moment was so touching.
Mm.
You'd be like,
yeah, okay.
Why?
Yeah.
Because LaFranz, he's shaking hands with Spider-Man. And you would go, who's LaFranz?
Yeah. Yeah, who's this kid? Yeah.
Right. Why is Spider-Man black? Because it's symbolic. Symbolic of what?
Yeah.
There are a number of TV shows over the years where, and I've accidentally done this too, where you forget that what made the series finale awesome was the journey to get there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have you ever seen G Gundam?
I haven't.
Okay, so G Gundam, basically it's like, what if Dragon Ball Z was about a Gundam pilot? Because it's like a similar sort of martial arts tournament and things like that. So end of the series, the whole time it's been this will he, won't he thing with his mechanic assistant Ray. And at the end, like, they have this moment where she's been consumed by the Dark Gundam, or Devil Gundam if you watch it in Japanese. And she's like the control element of the Dark Gundam's form or whatever. And he just starts yelling out how much he loves her and everything. And she breaks out of the shell and jumps over, and they do like a combination heart Kamehameha thing to kill the Dark Gundam and save the series. Yes, this show is as metal as it sounds. As ridiculous as it sounds. Like, we're talking about a show where the pilot had on occasion blocked hits from other Gundams with his bare hands.
Oh, jeez.
Like that's what the power levels we're talking about are.
Wow.
Now, I made the mistake one time of thinking, oh, well, this moment is absurd and awesome because there's high music and they'll like the random heart Kamehameha. And I showed it to some of my friends for anime night. And boy, you could have heard a pin drop as like they were reacting to it. Because you needed the 50 episodes of build-up to understand what the show was about and why that moment was awesome.
Yes.
So if you want to show someone a cool moment, do not show them, if you're trying to get someone to watch a show, do not show them the awesome payoff moment from the grand finale.
Yeah.
Because it's cool to you because you've been on the journey.
Yes.
In much the same way, if you have the option to start somebody with episode 1 of a series, even if like you go, yeah, episode 1 is boring, that's just exposition. The person who hasn't seen the series before is gonna want that exposition unless it's a totally episodic show.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can watch any random episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation in theory. You might be confused about what a Federation is, but yeah, if you just kind of go with it.
Yeah, or why the chick sitting, the ship therapist can hear people's thoughts.
Well, okay, but like that's a type of incidental power that you might just run with. I mean, she did have she didn't even really call it alien now that you think about it.
No, she didn't. Well, she was only half alien, if I recall.
But still, like, so for Star Trek, they usually have some like head ridges or like some spots on the neck or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Or in the case of the motion picture, they just shave her head complete. Just make her completely bald.
Right, that would at least make her look kind of alien. But now I think about it, Donna Troy just kind of not Donna Troy.
That's Wonder Girl.
That's Wonder Girl.
Yeah. Deanna Troy.
Deanna Troy. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Deanna Troy didn't really look all that alien, but that's a diversion.
Yeah.
So it's like there are some shows where you can just skip right to the good stuff. Though even then, like that Balance, what's it called? Balance of Terror? Was that like the season 2 start? No, Balance of Terror was a different one.
The Balance of Terror was the original. It was in the first season. It's one of the first ones, I think. Or maybe midway through the first season. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm forgetting that Star Trek season Next Generation. We're doing it live, folks.
Yeah.
Episode list. Here we go. Come on. Okay, I'm not finding it. Anyway, so I think that those Borg episodes would be awesome, but the setup for it is really just like how not hideously dangerous most of the Enterprise's adventures are by comparison.
Right.
Like the Borg hit harder if you've spent episodes watching them play grab ass with the Ferengi in space.
Or oh god, like messing with like giant space angel things,
or like have a giant space whale try to nurse on the ship.
Oh god, which one was that? Yeah, that was like in the second or third season, I think. God, yeah. I hated that one.
So yeah, it's interesting. Like just
yeah,
you think of these moments as being out of context, but they often do need the rest of that season to back things up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because otherwise you don't really. Like you said, there's no payoff. And so I'll give you another example. I'll give an example of like a comedy, a comedy show. Everybody Loves Raymond. Mm-hmm. So that's a show you don't necessarily have to watch from the beginning. Like you could watch like random episodes here and there. Although there are some episodes that do follow like a sort of continuity. But like you can watch, like if you watch like enough episodes of it, then you can start to figure out like all the figure out who all the characters are and all their foibles and quirks and stuff, and then you can actually start enjoying it. Like the whole dynamic with Deborah, who's Ray's wife, and Marie, who's Ray's mother. Their whole dynamic where they're just always going at each other all the time, or Ray's brother Robert, who's just has all these little quirks and idiosyncrasies that just kind of make him weird. Now that I think about it, like Ray Romano on that show was like he was almost a background character in his own show.
That's what doesn't happen with a lot of sitcoms.
Yeah. Yeah, because most of the most of the other characters just he got completely overshadowed by all the other characters on that show.
Well, you almost wonder if part of it is because he was the name actor, he wasn't about to let them make him look too foolish.
Yeah.
And if you couldn't, you probably also wouldn't be able to progress his character past his public persona too much.
Right. But yeah, it's that show had quite a few moments in it too. Where it was just kind of there was one where Robert, the perpetually single Robert, he brings his new girlfriend over for a date, and she seems really great. She's really pretty, and they really like her and everything. And there's a fly flying around, and she hits it, manages to swat it with her hands, and it drops down to the table. And Ray goes to the kitchen okay, I'll get you a Kleenex, and we'll throw it away. And then as he's coming back into the dining room, he sees her, Robert's girlfriend, grab the fly and put it in her mouth and eat
it. What?
so Ray's just standing there for dumbfounded, and he's just standing there for 2 or 3 minutes, and everybody's walking around him, and he's just dumbfounded.
Why did she do that?
Because when Robert goes back to her place and he goes into her bedroom, she's got all these frogs everywhere.
Oh.
So she's obsessed with frogs.
So she wouldn't be a furry.
No,
it's a squishy. I don't
squishy
because I've heard that loads of people are scalies, but frogs don't have scales. They just have
it's
skin.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just
I don't suggest Googling it.
No. You don't know. Yeah, you don't. You don't know what you end up with. What is it? Rule 34? Is that what it is?
The rule 34. If it exists, there is adult pictures of it.
Yes, it's actually I've got the perfect thing. It's you'll find things that will be very
spicy.
What was that? English is always amazing.
Yeah, that is from Fairy Tale.
Wow, you just had that ready to go.
Yes, I did. I've been waiting to use that for a while.
Well done.
Well, when you were talking about moments that stuck with you, I'm surprised you haven't mentioned this one.
Morons! I have morons on my payroll!
Yeah, that one. Oh man, that's from one of the best half hours of television you could ever watch, called Ode to Cobra.
Yes.
It's a plot from G.I. Joe from the 80s cartoon. It's free to watch on YouTube, and it involves the Joes and Cobra squabbling over a love potion written by the ancient Egyptians using a plant that only grew in Antarctica underneath the ice. Now, I'm sure that those of you who are geologically inclined and historically inclined are going, how did the Egyptians know about this plant that grew underneath the ice in Antarctica? For that matter, how did the Egyptians know about the Antarctica? Or how can a plant grow under the ice in Antarctica?
Yeah.
I think it was called the Anubis bane, if I recall right.
Yeah.
But it's, okay. So, but leaving that aside, and it's just this series where the GI events where the Joes just fail repeatedly to stop the Cobra commanders. Snow Job fails to stop them in Antarctica miserably. They get the tablet, but it falls into the ocean after the Cobra has already made the potion, and then it turns into a weird thing where you have Lady J and Lady J was the short-haired one. Lady J and the Baroness in a seduction contest to try, because Cobra's trying to get a an Onasi Greek oil baron stand-in to like under their control, and so they proceed to use the Eau de Cobra love potion to try and both influence him.
This is a show for kids.
This is a show for kids, and it's just like it's incredibly, it's so surreal just to watch. Like I didn't even watch it as a kid, but I happened to, when I was like in college, I said, well, I didn't really grow up with any of these shows because they were before my time. I'll just try a random episode of G.I. Joe. Like, let's see what I can find that someone's uploaded on YouTube. And by some happy coincidence, somebody had uploaded Eau de Cobra. And like, that was like the first full episode I found. And I was like, you know what? I don't need to watch more because it could only be downhill from here. That was a beautiful, shining moment of fiction.
Yes.
Including that line, morons, I have morons on my payroll. This was after two guys who were there to try to fight off Duke and Lady J, I think. They pop out, Cobra! They run at them, and the two of them proceed to just judo throw them off the boat.
God. Yeah, there was some great, a lot of great stuff in the 80s. A lot
Both
of great
intentionally
cartoons
and unintentionally.
Yeah.
I wonder what that episode was. It like, oh, and also the British Museum, like a guy who was dressed as a mummy snuck into the British Museum, burst out, and they didn't have any sort of security system around this tablet, but the guard did have a laser gun because it was G.I. Joe.
Of course.
Like maybe you should have spent some money on like a glass case around the tablet.
Yeah. It's like in, here with the Constitution or the Declaration of Independence, that those things are under like this much glass.
Yeah. A sad story if you ever go see the Declaration of Independence. It's actually really hard to read at this point because for a while there it was stored in a facility, or no, it was taken around the country and it got a lot of sun damage during that time.
Yeah, I remember, like, I saw it one time, went to the archives one time and saw it, and it was under so much light and so much glass you can't see it.
Right. It's I saw it a couple years back, and that's what I was told was that it had, like, now they're trying to keep all the sunlight out of it, which means you can barely see it.
Yeah. That and the original Gutenberg Bibles, they try to keep those, one of them's at the archives in Washington, D.C. And of course, there's a big sign right there, that says no flash photography. And there was one time when I was there with my family, and my father walked about 20 feet away, and guess what he did?
Flash photography.
Flash photography.
Dad, there was one rule.
Yes. And we're just expecting, like to hear on the news, the Gutenberg Bible in Washington, D.C. was found and it crumbled to bits because some stupid tourist took a flash photo of it.
Like a Nazi in an Indiana Jones movie.
Yeah. Oh, jeez. Well, that's a good one. Good moment. Indiana Jones, the first, whatever, 15 minutes of that movie, the Raiders of the Lost Ark. That's a moment that that whole thing sticks with a lot of people. Where he's you see him for the first time, and then he's going through all the traps and everything, and he's going through all the spiders, and Alfred Molina's got a bunch of spiders on his back, and
Oh, I forgot that Alfred Molina was in that one.
Yeah, he's the guy that's helping him through the. I think I want to say that was his first movie. Yeah.
Well, he got to meet Tevye and Dr. Octopus, so that's a winning career right there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so he he's going, Jones is going through there, and then of course he does the whole thing with the idol where he's got the bag of sand and he's, and then of course the bag of sand was too heavy, and then the boulder comes down.
Oh, that was never mind. You had the right title. I was getting my artifacts mixed up.
Yeah.
I was thinking Grail, but not instead of Ark. I misheard you. I mean, it's been, how many times has that been parodied? You can almost see like what movies really stuck with people about 15 years ago, because that's how long it takes for somebody to go from being an impressionable kid to entering the animation industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just watch kids' cartoons and see what they parody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like well, I mean, the Simpsons parodied it with Bart getting the Homer's jar of coins, and then Homer chases after him. He's out there in his underwear.
I mean, of course, the Simpsons. In the commentary, they talked about how you could pretty much make The Godfather Part 2 entirely out of Simpsons clips.
Yeah. Don Homer.
Don Homer, please. That's
a nice donut. Yeah.
Well, we're nearing the end of our hour, and we don't have any comments or questions this time.
Yeah.
So I hope you enjoy, especially if you're watching on the replay, us just kind of reminiscing on random moments that we've enjoyed over time, and just talking a little bit about why we think they stick. And really, sometimes it's just the right person at the right time.
Yeah.
But other times there are just things like, the Indiana Jones opening, where I feel like that movie could have actually been bad from that point out, and people would still remember that opening.
Yeah. Yeah, I do too. And yeah, it's, like what Bobcat said, I hope you all enjoyed watching us just kind of, talking about all this, kind of random stuff. But, I think it, if you think about it, having something like this, building up to a big moment, that can just really be a big selling point, or a big big bang in any story that you're telling.
Right. In fact, if you write a story and you don't have at least one moment that you think is going to stick with people, you might need to go back and rethink a few things.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be a big moment. It really just depends on your story. It can be a big moment of surprise, like I'm your father. It can be a big comedic gut-busting moment, like, yeah, why not? It can be a heartwarming moment, like a nun getting her guitar back.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, Little Nuns, it's free to follow on Twitter. Do it.
Yes. All right. Yes, exactly. I'll give it a follow. All right. So we're pretty much at the end of the hour. Any final thoughts, Bobcat?
Buy his book. You'll have less than a day.
Yes. And if you want to know the book I'm referring to, I'm about to play the trailer. So with all that said, I'm Daniel Parker. This is Darth Bobcat. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
The life of a spy isn't as glamorous as I thought. But it isn't dull.